Hello everybody, welcome to the Ask Me Anything for the CrossFit Linchpin private track, the closed Facebook group. We do these every Thursday. Members submit questions, other members upvote them, and I answer the top most upvoted ones live each week. So, first one, it's a good one. So, I'll read the question and give a little backstory. First most upvoted question is from Tyler S. Says maybe this is a question for you or your wife, Emily Sherwood, to answer. You recently posted the video of Emily performing Grace in 1 minute 43 seconds prescribed. And you mentioned that she's transitioned away from games, training, volume, and only performs one workout a day. A sub-2 Grace is wild. Do you think her capacity to do that is more related to the residual benefit of her elite gymnastics training and games level training from her previous life, or is it simply the result of her consistently working on functional movements for over a decade? Great question. And all right, so here's I think this, there's so many ways we could go with this question. It's a phenomenal question. So, all right, I'm just going to answer it. Just going to answer the question. But there's multiple facets in there, right? Which is, life's not fair. It's not. We all have the same, ideally, we all have the same opportunities, meaning we have the opportunity to work out every day, to do some deadlifts, to do some pull-ups, to go into our garage and train, to eat food and make those decisions, to get some sleep. Our outcomes could be wildly different, even everybody doing the same stuff. And a lot of it depends upon where you came from. So what's interesting is you might see somebody like, so my wife Emily just did Grace, 30 clean and jerks, the women's weight, 95 pounds, 1 minute 43 seconds. It's on the CrossFit Linchpin YouTube channel if you want to check that out under workout videos. She's 6.5 months postpartum. Has been scaling a ton of workouts, just gently coming back, trying to get everything just in order again, and does a 1:43 Grace, which is ridiculous because people could train their entire lives, not have to deal with a pregnancy or anything like that, just training around the clock, and never, ever, ever, ever go that fast on that workout. So why is that? She's a former Division I gymnast. Does that play a role? She's been to the games a couple times as an individual athlete. Does that play a role? Is it something else? And I think it's a little bit of everything. So I'm just going to run down, her background, which I had to write down to keep it straight, because I think what people just see is, oh, gee, she did this workout in this time. That's incredible. Maybe if I trained a little extra hard, I could do that. Maybe if I threw in some accessory work, I could do that. And maybe you could. Okay, that's maybe you could. But here is my whole thing of, sometimes when you see the end result, you don't realize how many years something's been going on behind the scenes. And I think people do this with like the games these days. They see some games athlete doing something, they're like, oh, well, I'm going to follow my hero's training and I'll turn into my hero. Well, that's not really how it works. So like, take somebody like my wife, for example. So she's a lifelong gymnast. I don't know what the rest of you were doing at 4 years old. At 4 years old, I was just watching cartoons and eating ice cream. But she began going to gymnastics at 4 years old. She's 40 right now. So she began training 36 years ago when she was only 4 years old on the planet. She kept training, and at least back at that time, you weren't allowed to compete in gymnastics until you were 7 years old. However, before she was 7 years old, she basically got identified by the coaches and the people running as, this girl's got something special going on. She's not like the other girls in the class. You can see it from across the room. This girl needs to compete. So she was already identified before she could start competing. So she finally hit 7 years old. She's now been training for 3 years by the time she's 7 years old. She starts competing at 7 years old. And that summer, after her first year of competition, she attended a gymnastics-specific summer training camp. So she's now not only training, throughout the school year, but now spending her summers training as well. During that first year attending the summer camp, halfway through, one of the lead instructors basically pulled her aside and said, "We want to speak with your parents." And that was because they also identified with all the children coming through the camp, hundreds and hundreds of kids, what's up with this girl? This girl's different. She's got something going on. They both basically spoke with the parents and said, "We think she's got something. You should cater her to, here's one of the top gymnastics training facilities on the West Coast. We think she could go somewhere with it. You should look into that." So she started attending one of the top gymnastics gyms on the West Coast, when she was 7 years old. Went through all the levels of progression, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. And then jumped to being an elite gymnast when she was only 11 years old. Again, I don't know what you were doing when you were 11 years old. I was watching G.I. Joe, maybe He-Man. But by the time my wife was 11 years old, she was an elite level gymnast, had been competing for 4 years, and had been training for 7 years. By the time she was 11 years old, she'd been training for 7 years. That's preposterous, right? That's ridiculous. Talk about a head start and just having some reps in the tank already. So, gets the elite designation when she's 11 years old. And I asked her, I said, at 11 years old, we've got a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, okay? And they've got basketball that they have to go to 3 nights a week for an hour. And that's what our 10 and 12-year-olds do right now for their sports. So, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 hour a night. I said, when you were 11 doing gymnastics, what did training look like? Okay, so wrap your head around this. At 11 years old, she was training for gymnastics 28 hours a week. 28 hours a week in the gym at 11 years old. Monday through Friday, it was 5 hours a day of training. 5 days a week, 5 hours a day. And then on Saturday, they would have a 3-hour practice. So adding up to 28 hours of training a week at 11 years old, with already 7 years under her belt. That is ridiculous. You want to talk about just time under tension and body control and getting literally thousands of reps. Handstands, somersaults, cartwheels, kipping pull-ups, toes to bar. L-sits. Come on. It's not even fair. We're talking about an 11-year-old. During the summer, that was during the school year, you're doing 28 hours a week. During the school year. Well, then during the summer, you've got more time, so it bumped up to 32 hours a week. It's ridiculous. It's almost a full-time job. That's 40 hours a week, right? They're working out 32 hours a week. Fast forward, she gets a full-ride scholarship to the University of Washington, D1 school. While she's there, she did very well. She was a Pac-10 Gymnast of the Week multiple times. She was the Pac-10 Vault Champion. She went to NCAAs as a freshman. She was the West Regional Gymnast of the Year. And then, how ridiculous is this? So she's 40 years old, so she graduated college, probably 19 years ago? So some time has gone by. To this day, she still holds event records on the vault, bars, beam, and all around at the University of Washington. It's like my point being, she's not a slouch, right? And so you see somebody that has been doing athletics since they were 4 years old at an intensity and volume that is science fiction to most of us. And it's just not a fair comparison, right? And you're like, well, was it the games training? Was it the gymnastics? Was it just everything? And are some people, like, why did she get identified as a young person in a group of 100 kids? Why did the coaches point to her and be like, we want to talk to your parents, you got something? Again, we can all work hard, right? But life's not fair, and some people are born with different stuff. And I don't know what else to tell you. And when those people who are born with different stuff get identified and then put into the right environment with coaching and training, well, then they're just going to skyrocket, and none of us are going to catch up no matter what we do. Because I can work really hard, but I wasn't born with the stuff that she's got. And it's okay. I'm okay with that. It is what it is. So then that was her through college. Then she left college, and gymnastics kind of ends. If you're an adult, you don't go to the Olympics. It kind of ends at college. So after college, she ran some half marathons. And then here's what's interesting about the CrossFit thing, right? Like, again, some people are just made out of different stuff. So she's trying to figure out what she's going to do for fitness. In March of 2010, she heard of this CrossFit thing. She's going to start doing CrossFit. So she just went to her local gym and just whatever was the 5 p.m. class, just joined the 5 p.m. class and just started doing what everybody was doing that day in March 2010. And then she did the Open 2 years later. In 2012, she does the Open. She'd had a baby 5 months previous to that. So 5 months postpartum, she does the Open in 2012. And just having had a baby, having done CrossFit for about a year and a half, she qualifies for regionals with her Open performances. How does that happen? That's not fair. I mean, it's not. It's not fair because people were training year-round to do that. She just casually going to classes, had a baby. Oh, what's this thing, the Open? Yeah, sure, I'll give it a try. How'd you do? Oh, you qualified for regionals. And so she goes to regionals that year, and by the time regionals hits, she's 8 months postpartum, shows up to regionals, has done absolutely no extra training in any way, shape, or form to show up to regionals. She was just doing whatever the 5 p.m. class was at the affiliate, got there when she could, missed it when she had to, whatever, who cares? I'm just going to go do this regionals thing, 7, 8 months after having a baby. So she goes to the 2012 regionals and takes 7th place, just showing up. And she said it was a very painful experience, a lot of discomfort. She had no intentions of ever going to regionals again. It was just a cool experience. That's that. She goes back to group classes, doing nothing else, just showing up to the 5 p.m. class, whatever. 2013, the Open rolls around. She's like, fine, whatever. I'll do the Open again. Does the Open, qualifies for regionals. So this time, she's like, ugh, regionals hurt so bad in 2012. Be great if I could make it hurt not so much. So this time she's like, I'm going to start doing a little extra work so that regionals doesn't just have to suck so much. So she did some extra training, went to the 2013 regionals, and here's a funny story. So here's a funny behind-the-scenes story that she authorized me to share with everybody. She goes to regionals in 2013, and she was in first place in the darn regional going into the final event. And then going into the final event, this is what she said. She's like, look, I'll be honest with you. I was over it. I just wanted, I knew that I was in a position to qualify for the games, whatever that was, the CrossFit Games, whoop-de-doo. I did the math, she did the math, and said, okay, I'm in first place going in. I've got this many points. Second place has this many points, etc., etc. And she said to herself, what is the lowest that I can finish on this final event and still occupy a top 3 qualifying spot to go to the games? Because I don't want to have to work any harder than I have to go to whatever this games thing is. And so she literally did the math on that. And if you went and did that workout and just sandbagged it and looked at the other women on the floor and just made sure that she kept ahead of whoever she had to keep ahead of and qualified for the games. Kept up that extra training because she's like, regionals hurts, the games is probably going to hurt. So she goes to the games as a rookie in 2013 and takes 23rd place. And then after that, she said, okay, showed up, took 23rd. I guess I'll take it seriously for 2014. So she decided to take it seriously for 2014. She qualified for regionals, went to regionals, took first place at regionals, then went to the games that year and took 13th place at the 2014 games. Gets back after that, after her second games appearance, and just went back to normal training. One workout a day, whatever the 5 p.m. class is, zero extra anything. Decides to do the Open in 2015, qualifies for regionals, and she turns it down. Just doesn't go. And at that point in time, she was working a full-time job, 40 hours a week. She was a mom of 2, and just, didn't have any desire to do what she knew needed to get done to, again, keep competing at that level. Her family and other things were more of a priority. And so ever since then, that was back in 2015, she was doing one workout a day. After the 2014 games, she went back to one workout a day. So she's been doing, one workout a day, one CrossFit workout a day, since after the 2014 games. So that's like 7 years of one workout a day. She hit it hard for about 2 years of games training. But she's been working out, doing gymnastics since she was 4 years old. So again, there's just a lot to unpack there as to why this wonderful, crazy woman that I'm married to can just do one workout a day. Have had a baby 6.5 months ago, modifying a bunch of workouts, and then just knocks out a 143 Grace. All right, there's a lot just to unpack there. It's also why she crushes me every day in the gym, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And it's just one of those things, like I said, I think some people don't want to have that conversation or it hurts people's feelings, but the truth is, with many things in the world, not all of us are created equal. Certain people have certain athletic gifts that just the rest of us don't have. And we see this in other areas, right? I mean, why is it in school, in a group of however many students, some kids they just get math. Math just makes sense to them. They just have a knack for languages. They barely have to study or crack a book and they get A's. And while there's a bunch of other people just busting their tails with their nose in a book studying to barely get a C+. Well, how does that work? How is that fair? It's not fair. I mean, everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but some people have certain things that just for whatever reason, they got it. And the rest of us don't got it. And that's just one of those things. And I see this every now and then. Fitness and athletics is an interesting thing. So our kids, our 10-year-old and our 12-year-old are in sports, and they're good athletes. And I've got a buddy who's a collegiate strength and conditioning coach at a Division I school. And, it's funny is every parent that I talk to, like our circle of friends, and I shouldn't say every parent, that's an oversimplification, but a lot of parents watching their kid play whatever sport it is when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, have these incredible delusions of grandeur. Everyone thinks their kid's amazing. I get that. I think my kid's amazing. Everyone thinks their kid's going to go to some D1 school or to the NFL or whatever it happens to be, and they think that they can get them there by swiping their Visa card or pulling out a lot of cash and putting them in these special training camps and select baseball programs or whatever it happens to be. And hey, maybe sometimes it works, okay? I think most of the time it doesn't, and it's just a great revenue machine for whoever's running that camp. But I remember talking to my buddy at a D1 school, and it's like, look, when you guys are recruiting athletes at the D1 level, and you look back over their history of athletics, can you see that, yeah, most of the kids that we recruit have been a part of these, select sports programs and these niche camps and all this thing, and that's what made them so great? Or are the kids who are amazing, you can just see from across the field with no special training and no special gear, you're like, wow, what's that kid's deal? He or she is a standout. And without question, they're always like, yeah, that's exactly how it goes. Some people just got it. They just got it. And again, I'm just probably an oversimplification, and there are some people that were on the cusp of being great and went to some camp and they did something clicked. I get that. But at the end of the day, there are just some freaks out there. There really are. And if you get those freaks in the right environment with the right training and the right coaching, good luck catching them. And, I don't have anything like this with athletics, but it's funny with my previous occupation of being a SEAL, I didn't grow up shooting firearms. I had a BB gun, like every other kid when I grew up had a BB gun, but that's it. We'd plink some cans in the backyard. But for whatever odd particular reason, when I went into the military and started actually shooting just made sense to me. It just clicked. This was said with no bravado or no whatever, because like I said, I don't have this in athletics. I could just hit what I wanted to hit. I was a naturally really, really good shooter, and it annoyed a lot of people that had been on like other shooting teams in college, and I never did any of that. It just made sense to me. And I just think some people they have different things, whatever. My wife's got what she's got, and I see it when she walks out into the gym. So, and the other interesting thing, and she'll be the first to admit this as well, great athlete might just end there. She's like, she'll be the first to admit she has no idea how to program a good workout or to make some sort of protocol that will increase your general physical preparedness. She's just an athlete. She's like, show up, tell me what to do, I'll do it. How do you make all that stuff? Got no darn idea. So, the two aren't always related as well. Great athlete may or may not mean great coach, may or may not mean any of those things. They can all be separate pieces of the puzzle. But getting back to Tyler's question as to, was it the games training? Was it the gymnastics? Was it consistency? I think yes to all. I think a lot of it was just started training when she was 4 years old, and it basically hasn't stopped doing some sort of athletic endeavor ever, and that's been going on. She's 40 now, so she's been training for basically 36 consecutive years. So, yeah, that's that. It's an interesting topic, though. Okay, Hi, come on in, say hello. Sorry, we have to take, even though this will one day be an audio podcast and you won't be able to experience this, my little daughter's got a very cute outfit. I gotta see her. Hi, honey. Look at you, show everybody. Oh my goodness, huh? You got some little gray jeans on, a little white sweater and a headband. Oh my goodness, you look so cute. You look like you're going to like a little casual luncheon or a business meeting or something. Do you see that? That's the internet. What's the internet? Well, we'll discuss that later. All right. Are you guys staying in or going out?
Going to the store.
Going to the store, okay. All right. Bye-bye. I hope that little girl got more of her mom's genetics than my genetics if she's going to be an athlete one day. I can suffer in weird ways. You need me to lay in a cold ocean, wet and sandy for like 6 months, I can do that. Beat my wife in a workout, can't do it. All right, here we go. Next one is from Eric C.M. and it's regarding accessory work. Where is it? Let me scroll. I feel like it was near the top. Okay, here we go. Good. Eric's question is, I do accessories every once in a while, only when time allows. Let's say once a week. Will that ever take any kind of positive compound effect on my fitness? If it's infrequent, could I use my time better some other way? So basically, rarely does the accessory work. Does it once a week. Is that even going to amount to anything? Should that time be used somewhere else? And the accessory work, as we always say, completely optional. So you don't ever have to do it, period, end of story, ever. And everything's still going to get fine. Accessory work is one of these interesting things that I think came about when everybody got so unusually obsessed with the games and these top-tier lunatic fringe athletes that were trying to do whatever they could to get 1 more kilo on their snatch because that would bump them up on the leaderboard. And then all of us regular people just trying to live long, fit, happy, healthy lives felt the need to do accessory work. And so again, I'm very vocal about that. You don't need to do it. Everyone I know, without exception, every single human being I know that started doing CrossFit back, in 2005 and whatever, when I did that before the games took off, everyone just continually kept improving, getting fitter, faster, and stronger. None of us ever did accessory work. So you don't have to do it. But getting back to your question, fair question. You've got, just doing it once a week. Is that even worth it? Should I just do something else? Yes, I would say it is worth it. But with a little bit of nuance to it, okay? So it's certainly better than nothing. All right, so let's say once a week, maybe you identify the barbell snatch as an area that you struggle with and you want to improve your technique on. So once a week, you have some extra time. Every Wednesday for 15 minutes, you do the Bergner warm-up at the end of your training session just to grease the groove, and that's your accessory work for the day. I'm going to get just the snatch technique into my body. Great. We're like, well, is once a week enough? Well, let's extend it out and see what the two possible options are and which one sounds better. One person is doing it once a week for 15 minutes. The other person isn't doing it at all. At the end of one calendar year, one person has accumulated 52 additional sessions focusing on snatch technique. 52 additional sessions. The other person has accumulated 0. I think when laid out that way, it is easy to see like, oh wow, yes, that does eventually pay off, just the repetitions. Or maybe, your thing is it's strict pull-ups. You just got to work on the strict pull-ups. I'm going to do some chin over bar holds, some bent over rows, some ring rows, whatever it happens to be. I can only do it once a week. At the end of a calendar year, you've worked on that 52 extra times compared to zilch, 0, nothing. So yes, I think that even though it may seem like a small deal, there is something there. And I would say, in an ideal world, okay, if you've only got one session and that's it, it's all or nothing, got it. But if I could say what would be even better is if you just had that 15 minutes, if we're going back to the Bergner warm-up, for example. 15 minutes, you're going to work in the Bergner warm-up every Wednesday. Better than nothing. Way better than nothing. But what would be even more exceptional is instead of 15 minutes on Wednesday, 5 minutes on Monday, 5 minutes on Wednesday, and 5 minutes on Friday. That's it. 5 little minutes. Cycle through the Bergner warm-up for 5 minutes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I think that, even though it's the same amount of time under tension as doing it once a week for 15 minutes, the shorter time, but the more frequent touches, that would be ideal. If your life allows that, great. If not, no worries. And that little, 5 minutes, 3 times a week, you could do a lot in 5 minutes for accessory work. 5 minutes of as many burpees as you can do, that's some serious work. 5 minutes of the Bergner warm-up, that's great for the central nervous system. 5 minutes, doing 1 minute everything you've got on the assault bike or the echo bike, rest 3 minutes, 1 more minute as hard as you can. Bam, that's 5 minutes. 5 minutes of ring rows, bent over rows, 5 minutes of midline training. You can do a lot in 5 minutes. You really, really can if you're dedicated and focused about and intentional about what it happens to be. Think about it also like, investing a little bit of money in the stock market or whatnot, right? Like, what's better, investing a little bit once a week or investing nothing? A little bit once a week is it compounds, and I think the same thing compounds with what you're doing physically with your body in the gym in there as well. And I do this I used to be very dedicated with not accessory work, but like Spanish is one of my loves, like trying to learn Spanish, and I was very dedicated with it for a long period of time, and I was in a different season of my life, hit it every single solitary day. I'm not in that season of my life anymore, and I get to sporadically listen to a Spanish podcast once or twice when I'm driving somewhere. Can't do it with my family in the car because they don't want to listen to it. They don't know what I think is being said. So I do it sporadically when I can. I'm nowhere near as dedicated as I used to be. And even just those small, infrequent touches keep some of the rust off it. And it's just, I think that's the way it is with a lot of things in life. If you can only get small, infrequent touches on there, it's way better than not doing it. So, Eric, hopefully that helps your question there. All right, final most upvoted question was from Paul S. And I think it's about getting a good way to introduce somebody into CrossFit. Let's see. How did I just... Oh, here we go. Paul's question is, what would be a good way to introduce someone new to CrossFit? Perhaps somebody who has never worked out before or hasn't in a very long time. How would you explain it in a way that would make it appealing and yet not daunting or scary? Okay, so the first thing that I would do with somebody who's never done CrossFit before is just 10 minutes of GHD sit-ups. Totally joking. Don't do that. They get rhabdo and go to the hospital. It's a total joke. Yes, a good way, well, it depends on where they're coming from. If they have any clue what it is, they have any athletic background, are they largely sedentary, etc., etc. Do they have a preconceived notion of what CrossFit is? Is it scary or is it dangerous because they read some hit piece article or something like that? So I'm a huge fan of explaining to people why it is that we do what we do. And if you're explaining CrossFit to somebody, you don't want to talk about, I don't know, some sort of neural muscular connection or metabolic pathways. Like, don't do it. Just in CrossFit, we're doing the movements that you have to do in real life. Like, we're training for life. That's a good lead-in line right there. And when training for life seems cliche, and all of you know this because we speak about it all the time, you can explain to them what that means. Raising and lowering your center of mass, that's a squat. It's getting in and out of a chair, getting off the toilet, whatever it happens to be. Picking something off the ground is a deadlift, going overhead. We're going to train all these things, that you can explain how these situations, picking something up off the ground, going up and down stairs, getting yourself up and down off the ground, pulling yourself over an obstacle, a fence, carrying groceries, whatever it happens to be, the movements that we do are going to actually mimic, improve, and strengthen what real life will force you to do. So again, it doesn't matter whether you like or don't like deadlifting. It doesn't matter what your doctor says about deadlifting. If you live on planet Earth and you don't have a full-time butler, you're going to be forced to pick things up off the ground. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks about the squat. Literally, it's raising and lowering your center of mass. Unless you don't use a toilet and you don't sit on chairs and don't do that stuff, you're squatting every single solitary day of your life. And most of us do this crazy kind of one-legged pistol squat when you get down kind of into a lunge position and just tie your shoe on one foot and then stand back up. Like, we're doing this stuff all day long. Maybe varying intensities, varying lows and whatnot. But all we're going to do is learn to do these movements that life demands that we do. We're going to learn to do them with the appropriate technique and mechanics to help your safety and longevity. And then we're going to appropriately, add a little resistance and a little bit of loading to strengthen your ability to perform these tasks. And we're going to do it in a intentionally designed manner that includes some weightlifting, some cardio work, some engine work, monostructural conditioning would be our nice little geek word there, some body weight movements, some gymnastics, and we're going to do this in a way that gives you just enough stress so that your body gets an adaptation, not so much that it overtrains you. We'll modify whatever we need to modify, and life will be great. We'll have fun doing it. That's what we're doing. So I'm a big fan of the conversation. Go to your favorite coffee shop, have a cup of coffee, talk for 30 minutes about what CrossFit is, why we do what we do, what does that look like, and then when you do actually get somebody in for their first session, scale, overscale. You want to hear after the first few sessions that new person come back and be like, I feel good, like you could have given me more, you could have dosed me up more. That's what you want to hear. You don't want to call your buddy the next day and be like, hey, how are you feeling from the workout? And they're like, I can't get out of bed. I can't touch my abs. It hurts when I cough. I can't use the toilet. My backside is so sore. That's not what we're looking for. It's a great way to scare somebody off and never have them do CrossFit again. And then just from there, scaling, as you guys are all scaling masters, we'll just incrementally and slowly start to build up what they're doing. And there's no rush. We're all good. So it's a less is more when you're getting somebody into it. It's not what I did when I first got myself and my friends into CrossFit, so you can learn from my mistakes. Okay, let's see. Let me put this to the side here. And I've got a few Linchpin shoutouts that we can end with, things that I pulled from the Facebook group over the last few months. This one is from Dave N, and I entitled it 1 Month Trial. Dave says, I confess I thought this would be a 1 month free trial and out kind of thing. But here I am, some 55 workouts later, and I can confidently say this has been the most challenging, informative, and humbling thing I've done in a very, very long time. Very cool. Okay, let's see. Next one. This one is entitled, While the Wife and the Toddler Sleep, Dedicated. So obviously somebody's getting after it here. This is from Jeff D. It says, I hit this one after the toddler and wife went to bed, hence the crash pads. Glad I didn't even try to do this for time. I think I did Isabel at 115 pounds last time. Let's see. So basically hitting it late at night. Love the fact that, we've got some dedicated people in our community. People getting after it like 4:30 or 5:30 in the morning before the family's up. Here's Jeff getting after it at the late into the night after everybody goes to bed. People do some pretty inspirational things to just get it in. Life doesn't care about your schedule, your fitness needs, right? You do what you got to do to make it happen. And here's another one. This is from Joseph G, entitled Early Alarm and Baby. What a way to start the week. Heavy day on a short time frame. Decided to combine everything into some sort of a complex. Alarm went off at 5:20 a.m. I contemplated staying in bed, but with luck, my baby would have woken up on his own. So I got up, got him, changed him, fed him, and headed out into the garage. 5:20 in the morning. People making it happen. As always, the Linchpin community continues to impress me. That's it. Hope everybody enjoyed yet another AMA down in the books. It's a rest day. I'm certainly taking it. Hope all of you are as well. And I guess I'll see you back tomorrow for some more fun and some more fitness. And we'll talk later.